greetings of the day, and a very good evening to the ones joining from India. I'm Ariba Shoy. I have been part of DCW since 2024, and I have worked here in various capacities, like the Conversation Hour lead, and contributed in different Wikimedia projects across the ecosystem. This is a little introduction about myself, and I welcome you all to the 43rd DCW Conversation Hour. On behalf of the Deoban Community Wikimedia, I warmly welcome all our participants, guests, and community members who have joined us today. We are delighted to have you with us, and we hope you enjoyed today's session. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to introduce Deoban Community Wikimedia, also known as DCW. DCW is a recognized user group affiliate of the Wikimedia Foundation with a special focus on global Muslim academia, scholarship, history, and culture. Our aim is to make knowledge more accessible by encouraging individuals and institutions to contribute to Wikimedia projects such as Wikipedia, Wikidata, Wikimedia Commons, Wikisource, and many others. We support this mission through community events, training programs, workshops, editathons, and institutional partnerships that help both new and experienced contributors become part of the free knowledge movement. Now, one of the DCW's initiative is the Conversation Hour. This is a monthly online series, you could say, where we invite experienced Wikimedians, researchers, developers, and community leaders to share their knowledge and experiences with with our community. Today's Conversation Hour is titled Wikipedia Admin and Patrol Tools. Most of us are familiar with Wikipedia as readers or editors. But behind every high quality article is a dedicated community of administrators, patrollers, and technical contributors who work tirelessly to maintain accuracy, prevent vandalism, and ensure that Wikipedia remains a trusted source of free knowledge. In today's session, we'll explore the tools, workflows, and automation systems that support this work. We'll also learn how administrators and experienced editors use technologies such as page triage, patrol tools, mentorship systems, and automation through Pywikibot to efficiently manage Wikimedia projects. Whether you are an experienced Wikimedian, an inspiring administrator, or simply curious about the technical side of Wikipedia, this session promises to offer valuable insights into how one of the world's largest collaborative platforms operates behind the scenes. It is now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's session, Sohom Datta. Um, so, if you could turn on your camera, that would be great. Hello.
Yeah, give me a sec.
Okay. So, Sohom is a volunteer software developer with the Wikimedia Foundation, an English Wikipedia administrator, and currently a PhD student in computer science at North Carolina State University, USA, where he is actively involved in research in web security and computer systems. He has been contributing to Wikimedia's technical ecosystem since 2019 and has authored more than 150 code contributions across Wikimedia software. He has developed and maintained several important tools and extensions, including the page list widget, proofread page, and page triage, which support editors and administrators across Wikimedia projects. Beyond Wikimedia, Sohom is also an accomplished cybersecurity researcher. He has contributed to projects such as Chromium, participated in Google Summer of Code as both a student developer and a mentor, that is applaudable, and has responsibly disclosed security vulnerabilities affecting widely used software. He currently serves as a member of the Product and Technology Advisory Council, also known as PTAC, and contributes to several technical initiatives within the Wikimedia movement. We are truly honored to have him with us today and to share his expertise and experiences. Without further ado, I would like to invite Soham Datta to deliver today's talk. Over to you, Soham. Thank you. There's just a disclaimer I would like to put here. This session is being recorded, so if you want, you can turn on or off the cameras as you feel comfortable. Thank you.
Right. Right. So today I'll be talking about Wikipedia admin and sort of the patrolling that goes on behind the scenes to deliver sort of reliable and what is in effect like good content to uh, Wikipedia readers, especially on articles that are like um, particularly right. So should I be talking about Wikipedia admin and patrol tools, basically talking about how the patrolling system behind the scenes works and what administrators on Wikipedia do to make sure that the content that is being provided to the reader is verifiable and accurate. So I'll mostly skip over this since I got a very lovely introduction. I am a PhD student at NC State. I volunteer on Wikipedia and I've written a bunch about web security and I do do code contributions as well. Right. So, what are Wikipedia admins? Their major job on Wikipedia is to clean up vandalism on Wikipedia, but also to enforce sort of policies and rules that are there on Wikipedia itself. They have an extremely big toolset that allows them to enforce all of these rules, and which includes being able to block users, being able to roll back vandalism, protect pages, delete pages, and assign different rights to users. Um, now, um, each and every admin on Wikipedia typically goes through a community process. This is something that is mandated by the Wikimedia Foundation. And the idea is that you can put in, like, either you yourself can say why you want to be an administrator or somebody else nominates you to be an administrator. And then the community discusses typically for 7 days. It can be longer or shorter depending on the wiki. For smaller wikis, sometimes it's just like you have a discussion, whereas for English Wikipedia and other bigger wikis, there is a specific process called the request for adminship, or more recently on English Wikipedia, there is the administrator election process where you basically put in a nomination, and then depending on whichever process you are in, the community gets to ask you questions and they get to vote either through a secret ballot system or through like directly putting in votes to elect you as an administrator or not. You can see here I've taken an excerpt from my own um, administrator election. I was one of the like I was part of the batch of admin, like the first batch of admins to be ever elected through the administrator election process, and around 2,000 people, 2,900 people. Well, sorry, 290 people supported me. Around 100 people said that they were neutral about it, and then 200 people were basically opposed to me. But that was good enough to basically consider, like, for there to be consensus for me to be elected. Um, yeah, for smaller wikis, it's a lot more like, especially when the wikis are, say, like a very small wiki where there's only like 2 3 users, then they typically don't have bureaucrats or stewards. They don't have all of this process. They can just ask stewards for the right. They can show up. They can basically say, okay, I will open like a discussion page on their own Wikipedia, and then a steward puts it on hold, puts their request on hold for um, a say a week or so, and then once the discussion happens, if there is if nobody disagrees, then the user is granted administratorship. This is sort of an example of, this is not from my RFA, but from somebody else's RFA, somebody called TechnoScrill. Um, you get a bunch of questions asked during this request for adminship process or administrative election process. A lot of the times, some of these are quite pointed and basically tests your knowledge of different policies that you will implement. Sometimes it's sort of testing your intentions or why you wanted to go for the process in the first place, and everything in between. There is a page on Wikipedia about how sometimes how ridiculous these questions can get, but also sometimes like these questions to help the candidates say address sort of big opposition that might come up during their request for adminship, or alternatively um, like head off certain things from the start. Right. So patrolling is one of the core functions that administrators do. It keeps the project safe from abusive users, sock puppets, and vandalism. This is the UI. Like the UI that you see here is from the watch list, which is a page where every page that you like, so on top of every page there is a star icon which you can use to basically add pages to your watch list. And inside of that watch list, you then like whenever new changes show up, they show up in this sort of an interface. You can and the idea is you can have like sort of live updates, and not only that, you can sort of filter, like if you got a lot of pages, which many people do. I have over 1,000 pages on my watch list apparently. um like because you keep editing, the more you keep editing, the more things you start watching over, and so this page sort of accumulates, and so there's a lot of filters that you can use to sort of find good edits, find bad edits, depending on what you want to look at. For example, I have it set so that it only shows me the latest revision, and only in the article and talk namespace, alongside a few. This is a new feature that has been added called labels, where you can label specific pages with sort of tags that you want to remember, think, identify, and so any that are, say, like, so I do a lot of permission requests on Wikipedia, and those show up a lot in my feed, and so I have labeled them yellow so that I know, okay, this probably needs my attention quite fast. So now, how does vandalism typically look like? It just like it's typically one person who makes unwanted changes, and then say like completely deleting the whole article itself, or making small changes that might seem okay at first, but basically remove some critical piece of information. And for administrators, whenever you see these kinds of edits, the fact that you see tag reverted here means that it's already been reverted. But if you were to look at edit that does not have, then that has not been reverted yet, you would see a rollback one edit and an undo alongside it, which you can press then like go back to the previous version. The difference between an undo and a rollback is rather technical, but with an undo, it requires you to go through multiple screens, whereas with rollback, it immediately reverts the issue. This can be used against people who are especially persistent, or like persistent in making bad edits, or like have made a lot of revisions at the same time so as to clog up the edit history. Rollback allows you to do multiple edits, and it also has a few other things in software that it configures, where it bypasses a bunch of inside double quotes protections to that prevent sort of two people from conflicting with each other, so that um, you basically get you revert and edit faster. Now, the while a lot of people use the watch list, there's lots of people who also don't. Um, One of the tools that's particularly popular is this thing called SW SW Viewer, and the idea is you get a scrolling list of all of the changes on one side, and then you can click on each and every one of them. You get a diff in the middle, and then you have sort of buttons that you can press to revert, to revert, to tag and edit, to tag a particular page, and so on and so forth. The idea here is that, like, this is a web app that's hosted on the on Wikimedia servers, but it's like maintained by sort of um non-admins and or technical people that basically streamlines the workflow and creates a sort of like you will realize that it says ORS. ORS is a machine learning system that is deployed inside of Wikimedia, which ranks, which like one of the things that it does is it ranks edits based on whether or not um, they should be reverted. And this the um, SW viewer uses this system to sort of only surface edits that need to be reverted. And also, not only that, it does it across multiple projects, which allows you to sort of which is a much more immersive experience than the watch list, and allows you to be much more efficient at reverting vandalism. There's a bunch of these tools. Others include Huggle, as well as there is a new one called WikiShield that has been written by Looney Zuni, if I remember correctly, and it's iterations upon the same concept of we like making the watch list or the recent changes feed much more easier to navigate for patrollers, and making it so that you need to take less clicks to take moderation actions against users. The WMF also has created tools like Auto Moderator, and the community also has created sort of automation. Both of these are machine learning systems. Um, y- in the bottom half, you can see there is ClueBot NG. ClueBot NG is basically a machine learning bot that reverts vandalism for like that continuously watches a feed and reverts like obvious vandalism. And Auto Moderator is similar, except that it uses sort of machine learning models run on Wikimedia Foundation servers. Um, there is a specific brand of models that they use called Revertrisk, and the idea behind the Auto Moderator models is that they are language agnostic, so you will not be able to like there will be a lot less retraining required going from different wikis, and you can use one model to basically always be able to revert vandalism, so as to say. And the idea is this is slowly being rolled out to different projects, and they each project can individually set like a threshold level beyond which if like like if the model is 99% sure, say that edit is vandalism, it'll revert it. But if it's say 98% and it's below the threshold, it will not be reverted. ClueBot NG is very specific to English Wikipedia only, but Auto Moderator is an effort to sort of bring it to more wikis, right? But we talked about just typical vandalism, which is like say the removal of content, but often there are people who are entrenched and people who try and manipulate votes, reinstate their vandalism over and over again, and engage in coordinated editing. And a lot of the times these people create sock puppets. Sock puppets are basically multiple accounts that are operated by the same user. They deceive the community into thinking there are multiple people, and they run like they're harder to find because they sort of blend in with normal accounts because their goals are a lot more nefarious than just normal vandalism. It's typically to um, act as normal users but also disrupt the systems that people use on Wikipedia to decide rules, consensus, and um, basically what goes in an article, what doesn't, whether or not an article should be deleted, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of people who use particularly sock puppetry in the context of undisclosed paid editing. So, for context, paid editing is kind of frowned upon on Wikipedia, particularly on English Wikipedia. And if you do not disclose that you're a paid editor, um, the Wikimedia Foundation terms of use says that you can be banned. And but obviously, like if somebody doesn't know that you're a paid editor, it's a lot easier to get your article through. Like especially if it's like spam, and a lot of sort of sock farms, so as to say, where multiple people operate multiple accounts to start to get their articles over the line and into Wikipedia exists. So when we talk about sock puppetry, one of the best ways of finding sock puppets is using what is basically technical information. In this case, I'm showing you the temporary account viewer um, temporary account viewer interface, which is not like complete technical account access, but it gives you some amount of insight into basically. So what you can do is you can go to a specific account and you can look temporary account, and you can take a look at it and see all of the other accounts that are associated with it. Temporary accounts are sort of a new feature on Wikipedia where um, whenever you make an edit, a new account will be created for you by default, and it'll have this sort of um, IP, well, not IP address, but it'll have this weird format of it'll start with a tilde, it'll contain the year, and then a random string of numbers. Um, and but the thing is, these accounts are typically like administrators can see the IP addresses of a lot of these accounts. Now, s- most administrators cannot, like, if you create your own account, most administrators cannot see the IP addresses behind these accounts. That is restricted to a specific group of administrators called check users. And to get that kind of information, you need to file um, on English Wikipedia, at least you need to you need to create an investigation. Um, in this case, it's like sock puppet investigation slash name of the user, and then somebody will make sure that there is sufficient evidence to consider to imply that the person is using sock puppet accounts, and then sort of run checks to make sure whether or not multiple sort of users are on the same IP. Um, in this case, you can see that there's this particular user was associated with a lot of other users. Um, um, and so basically, um, was creating multiple accounts back, and like this particular user kept creating multiple accounts, and these all got associated with a specific user. Also, another thing that we use when we are finding, so a lot of the times you need to actively seek out this kind of sock puppetry. And what we often do is we look at deleted history. So, for example, a sock puppet might try to create a particular page and then fail to do so, and basically the page gets deleted. But then another user comes along and creates the same page again using the same format. And so a lot of the time looking at these kinds of history, so everything in red here is sort of history that's been deleted. This is something that you don't see as a reader. But then when you look at sort of the overall but when you look at as an administrator, you can see that these previous edits have happened, and you can correlate that. Okay, this particular blocked user that created this particular page is related to this particular user who just came in and decided to create it again with almost the same content. Um, Once you identify that the user is stalking, you would typically want to block that user. In this case, for example, like there are obviously two block types. You can either do a site-wide block, in which case the user will be completely stopped from editing the site itself. You can set an expiration time, you can set a reason, and more importantly, you can block the user from creating new accounts. You can block the user from sending emails or even using their talk page. Typically, the talk page and the email addresses are not revoked because in we expect like we uh, at Wikimedia sort of expect radical transparency. So we expect that the user who has been blocked will be able to make a request on their talk page and appeal, and another administrator who is not the person who blocked the user can come along and basically review the action that has been taken by the particular administrator. There's also specific there are also two other options available, which includes the ability to auto block any IP addresses used, which means that it if the block user goes on a specific IP address, that particular IP address gets a block for a specific amount of time. And also there is and similarly there is watch the target user's talk page and user page to make sure that they are not um, doing vandalism on their user and talk page, and to see what um, appeals they come up with. You can also typically block a user partially, though this is somewhat lesser used on Wikipedia for like because it has been introduced somewhat recently. When I say somewhat recently, I mean around 2019, 2020-ish. And the idea is you can block a user from editing specific pages if they're being particularly disruptive on those specific pages. But you can also stop them from editing like a whole namespace. So like all articles or all drafts, so on and so forth. Right. The last thing that I want to sort of talk about in the general area of blocks is you can also block ranges. In this case, um, when I say ranges, I mean obviously IP address ranges. So um, in this case, I'm blocking sort of everything that starts with 26001005B, 000, and so on. Um, Previously, Wikipedia's contribution system used to completely rely on IP addresses. You could see the IP address that made the edit. Nowadays, this is hidden behind the temporary account system that we discussed, but you can still block these IP addresses. And when you do that, it means no other person can make temporary accounts when they're editing through these IP addresses. Now, Wikipedia administrators have obviously a lot of authority. They can protect pages, as you can see, like sort of if you see this lock icon, it typically means it's protected. There is there are multiple levels of protection. This is one of the lower levels. It's called pending changes. It means that whenever you make an edit, it will sit in a queue and wait to be reviewed by somebody before it's made live. But also, there's a bunch of processes in place to make sure that the sort of edits that you're making are not disruptive, right? Um, One of these is the this template has been deprecated, but the idea that there are different areas that are contentious. In this case, is this is a joke template. There isn't any contentious topic called toilet paper orientation, but it like you can imagine that, especially like say memes on social media or particularly political topics will have like either protection or be designated a contentious topic where um, whenever something gets designated as a contentious topics, any admin can come in and sort of enforce decorum among participants who are on the talk page or the way like on editors who are editing the page, because people often get rowdy and start like reverting each other to make their viewpoints stick. And the idea here is that admins have sort of a toolbox that allows them, whenever a page is under contentious topic protection, like contentious topic is considered a contentious topic, um, the page can then be sort of either locked down or like locked down as in like protected, or the editors can be sanctioned with fairly limited input, whereas otherwise you would typically have to discuss it and get consensus before you can make put these kinds of restrictions on people. Now above admins is the arbitration committee and the community. The community at large um, creates these sort of designations in the first place. So if you need to designate something a contentious topic, you need to put it up for discussion by the community. Or if the community is unable to say this, then there is a group of around 5 admins that are elected every year, and they form the arbitration committee. And so the arbitration committee can sort of designate certain areas as contentious topics. If a user is being particularly disruptive, they can be either banned by the committee or the arbitration committee. Um, to get them banned by the arbitration committee, people typically um, take cases about editors to the arbitration committee for them to be banned. But also the community, uh, like you can also start a community discussion, and provided it has been open for 72 hours and there is consensus to ban a specific user, that user will be banned. Now, switching of gears again, in terms of patrolling, there is the other area of Wikipedia, which is new page patrol. Um, so, new page patrol is basically the like there's a lot of people who want to create sort of new pages on Wikipedia, and a lot of the time they are not that great because it's their first time contributing to Wikipedia, or they are either doing paid editing or they are putting spam, so on and so forth, right? Or maybe they just don't have enough sources. And so this is a sort of fire hose of a page where where all of the new articles that have been created on Wikipedia show up. And you can go and click on any one of these, and you can look through these and mark these as patrol if you think these are up to the standard on Wikipedia, or not do that, if or like mark them for deletion if that is what you intend on, like if that's what you think about the page basically. This is obviously not willy nilly. There is a lot of policies behind this, particularly. So there is sort of three levels. You can do you can either do a speedy deletion, that which means it fits one of the criteria that the committee has pre-decided, constitutes pages that should not be there on the encyclopedia. This is typically used for like obvious vandalism, spam, or pages that say are like tests that have been accidentally created, and so on and so forth. But then, if it's slightly more contentious, what you can do is you can uh, prod it, which is basically put a tag that says if nobody responds to this in like 7 days, this can be deleted. And the last sort of option, if even that gets disputed, is to put it up for articles for deletion, where there is a full-fledged discussion about a specific article, and the article is then, based on that discussion, deleted or kept um, on Wikipedia. This page that I'm showing you is the old version of the page. I will switch out and I will show you the newer version. This is called the new pages feed, and the idea here is that this is a much more sort of this is a newer interface. It allows you to it has sort of tags of problems that might be associated with the articles. So, for example, when it says possible orphans, it means that this particular page does not have any sort of links linking to the page. And once you open this, you get a toolbar. In the toolbar, you have a bunch of actions you can do. You can take a look at the history. You can send wiki love. You can thank the creator for creating the page. You can mark it as reviewed. You can add different tags to it, or you can mark it for deletion according to a specific set of criteria. Um, Going back to the presentation, going back in, one of the things that typically keeps coming up that I want to highlight is copyright, because like this is one of the things that almost everybody on the internet sort of uh, assumes doesn't exist until it does. And they a lot of people will just copy in text from different pages. So you have this tool called Copy Petrol. You can see the interface here, where the where which runs the which runs Turnitin, which is like a copyright detection software, on every single edit that shows up on Wikipedia, and sort of anything that shows up with more than a 90% confidence, sorry, more than a 50-60% confidence, if I remember correctly, um, gets put into a queue, which can then be reviewed by like patrollers who are patrolling the feed. This is sort of integrated into page triage, um, and whenever like the page triage has a possible copy bios button to take a look at some of this. In particular, so whenever you open this thing, it gives you a compare, like it takes the article text and it takes the source text and it sort of diffs them against one another and shows you in yellow everything is that has been copied over. You can then either choose to mark the page as fixed if you make an action, or say that there's no action needed for the specific page. One of the things that's really useful when doing these sorts of investigation is the ability to um, look at who wrote a specific piece of text that is currently on the page, or like was on the page at a particular point in time. There is this extension called Who Wrote that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store, that a lot of administrators use, where it shows you exactly who has written a particular piece of text on a page. In this case, you can see this is the page for liquid class, and PRR fan has written that specific the principles paragraph of that particular page. Another thing that keeps like coming up nowadays is the that Wikipedia has recently prohibited AI generated content from showing up on Wikipedia, but then a lot of people who create new articles do not really have not really read this guideline, and so will create articles based on just like AI generated text. And so, if these things show up, these can be tagged as AI generated using a specific tag you can see here, and especially and if there is evidence that the user has been doing this for a long time, they can a person can open a copyright sorry AI content investigation on the on the user, and like all of their sort of edits will be listed, and a person will have to go through every single one of their edits to make sure that the particular page that they are editing is not currently AI generated, or at least that the content, like either the content has been removed or it has been deleted. um Now, for now this is the this system is extremely labor intensive, as is in fact like copyright patrol is labor intensive as well, because finding a lot of these sources can be hard. Oftentimes these are like books that are hard to find, and especially if there's a lot of contributions of a specific user that need to be reviewed, it sort of creates a lot of fatigue for the user. But then to a certain extent, copyright has some automation tooling around it in the form of this particular tool. There's another tool called Earwig's Copyright Detector, which uses Google data to find whether or not a particular like page has copyrighted content. But also, in for AI generated things, this is even more difficult because there's no actual reliable way to figure out whether or not something has been AI generated. It's based on a lot of sort of heuristics that people have developed over time, which are on a page called WPAI Science, that a lot of these people who um, show up on the AI notice board use. And these heuristics is something that they've built, like it's become sort of oral knowledge about how AI treats or like looks like writes Wikipedia text, and based on the text that has been written, or like quirks inside of it, say like hallucinated references, um sort of misformed markup, and so on and so forth, that they can figure out that these pages have been AI generated. It's obviously extremely labor intensive, and there is work, I think, from the foundation now, but also among some volunteers to build better tools so that um, the detection can be done faster for this kind of content that's prohibited on Wikipedia. Now, all of this sort of new page patrolling is made a lot easier by Twinkle. Twinkle is a sort of automation framework where basically it gives you this drop down, and it has a bunch of options. You can click these, it'll show a dialogue similar to this. You can click it encodes a lot of community processes inside of it. This what I'm showing you here is for English Wikipedia, but this can be customized for every specific wiki as well, depending on their own processes. And it gives you a, like, instead of previously what you had to do was you had to edit the page, you need to figure out which specific criteria it met, or like, and add that criteria to that page in the form of a template. Now what you can do is you can just click on specific, uh, click on all of the criteria that apply and just tag the page, and an administrator will come along and find it and delete it for you. Now, we've talked a lot about patrolling and sort of being adversarial to um, sort of inside double quotes new users, and also like sort of people who are coming into the project basically. But also there is another side of Wikipedia, which is mentorship and sort of mentoring new users that are coming in, especially if they are particularly promising. There is this there is a mentorship dashboard that has been created by the Wikimedia Foundation, where you can basically put in a message for your mentees. You can set yourself to away or active, and you can tell the software to like basically assign, like either you can claim your mentees one by one, or you can assign them, like ask the software to assign them you randomly, and you get a list of all of the mentees that you have, and they can ask you questions on your talk page through a pretty nice UI, like user friendly UI. And you can also keep tabs on their sort of activities through this UI to make sure that they are not making any edits that you would consider to be bad. There's also more efforts by the Wikimedia Foundation. This is a page called Special Personal Dashboard, which has come up, where you can, which allows you to sort of review interesting edits that you might find, and basically take actions such as undoing an edit, or thanking a particular editor for that matter. It also has another tab that you can sort of see here, where it lists all the active discussions that are going on Wikipedia, in case you or another admin will want to opine on a lot of these, which a significant part of sort of what makes an administrator is the social capital that they have on Wikipedia. And often we like to spend social capital sort of making policy changes, discussing how policy should be applied, with other users as well, and talking about sort of what exactly goes on, like sort of the nitty gritty of what is going on behind the scenes. In this case, it says, is it Thursday or is it Firefox? In this case, Thursday means um, Wikipedia's sort of technical changes typically hit the wiki on Thursdays. And so this is sort of a technical question of, is this broken because there was a technical change, or is the browser the problem? Now, I also want to talk more about community configuration, which is this feature that was introduced a while back by the Wikimedia Foundation, where it allows you to configure, like it allows administrators like us to configure a bunch of things about features that will sort of that will show up on Wikipedia. If you click on one of these, it'll give you this sort of a form, this interactive form. And by making changes to this form, you can say, like in this case, figure out um, what sort of links will be shown to the new users on their onboarding screen, and whether or not they will see suggested edits, and whether or not they will be notified of it, and so on and so forth. Um, there are a bunch of new features that are being added to this configuration page, and almost every new feature that the Wikimedia Foundation adds is nowadays associated with it. But there's a huge backlog of features as well that need to be manually configured by asking technical users that have the uh, access to make technical changes to Wikipedia to make the change on their behalf. In this case, that would typically require sort of creating tickets on Fabricator, and opening sort of changes on a particular site called Gerrit. I can show that to you. Um, you can Yeah, so you can make like software changes using these. You can say, okay, this particular change needs to be made, and then somebody comes along and reviews it for you. And once you get like approval, in this case, this hasn't, but once you get approval, it will get deployed on the site. So moving back to this, the last thing that I want to talk about is Pywikibot. Pywikibot is so a lot of admins do a lot of repetitive work as well, and Pywikibot is a Python library that a lot of us use to make it very easy to sort of automate repetitive tasks. And you can write a small bit of Python to essentially make it a lot easier to do that specific task by just like calling a bunch of functions. It is typically fairly easy to use. What you can do is um, you can basically authenticate as a specific user and then have that particular Python snippet run continuously across, say, like a loop of categories or so, or something along those lines, like a list of pages, and it can make edits or deletions or protections depending on what exactly you're trying to do. A lot of people also use it for like category tagging and so on, like different maintenance tasks that are required from administrators or patrollers to um, maintain the quality of Wikipedia and sort of make multiple changes in one go. Right. That should be more or less it.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you, Sohom. And thank you for taking us of how the administration and the administrator work in the Wikimedia ecosystem. What are the challenges that they face, and how automation has simplified that and still trying to improve it and simplify even further. Um, if you have any questions, it is for the participants. We have 15 minutes or so for the question and answers that you have. Either you can put in the chat box or you can simply raise your hand and unmute and ask the question. There's a question by Yellow and Sun. While dealing with sock puppetry, how do you deal with automation bias?
Do you what do you mean by automation bias? Right. So here's the thing, right? Like when you're looking at sock puppetry in particular, I think the main thing, like before you get to make any um, decisions on whether or not something is like whether or not a person is a sock puppet of another user, you need to first establish what we call behavioral evidence. And with behavioral evidence, what ends up happening is you need to, right. Well, so the idea, especially with sock puppetry, is you won't be like you cannot see the IP until you show behavioral evidence of there being a link. So you need to first assume that, well, like you need to first show that there is a behavioral link, like based on just the behavior you can make a connection that these two people are the same user, and only then does the IP get checked as sort of confirmation of that. So and there are cases, so there are cases where people might share, like if I'm, say, going through an airport and like I'm using the public Wi-Fi, right? Or I'm using a VPN, which typically you're not supposed to use, but it depends. um so like if you have a VPN and you're somehow unblocked, right? uh, you don't know what IP address you have, and with and then and to be very honest, that IP address is probably being used, like it's an open IP address. It's There is a chance that it's being used sort of in an abusive manner on Wikipedia. But a lot of the times, what check users can do is they correlate this with an existing list of sort of open proxies or open IP addresses that they already have. And so, not only like the fact that a single IP address overlaps with somebody else is typically not like evidence in and of itself that there is a problem. It's more of, okay, that like this is one, like it basically, like they have different levels of confidence that they use when they take a look at IP addresses, and it's basically like if two, like if two users are always using the same IP address, that's a problem. If two people are like share an IP address once in a while, sure. And if it's an abusive IP address that's an open proxy, then it's just like taken out of the results completely. Hope that makes sense.
I hope this answers your question. If you still have any doubt, you can put. Okay. Thank you so much. Do we have more questions?
I think let me try connecting from here. So, do you think that or the tools that are particularly available uh, on communities where there's a bulk of administrators who have an interest in tech, like English Wikipedia, there could be an easy way to bring them to sort of semi sort of communities, not small communities. It's a bit difficult, particularly talking about Twinkle, because I see a lot of uh, tools on Urdu Wikipedia. They are half Arabicized, half Persianized, and it becomes too difficult to put things into an order. So do you think could there could be ways or documentation that makes it easier for sort of administrators who do not have sort of technical expertise to help import those tools from sort of into such communities? I'd appreciate. Thank you.
Yeah, that's something that I've been talking, well, with a bunch of people about. It's Twinkle in particular is hard because it's one of those things that it's very dependent on the exact like the like it's very dependent on a specific wiki, on what their processes are and how like how it needs to be configured in that way. There is, I think, so if I can pull up, I remember looking at this. There is a inside double quotes starter pack. No, media gadget. I will share my screen. So there is this which offers like there is a Twinkle starter um template repository that allows folks to, I mean, it is, to be fair, 2 years old, but um it allows you to sort of import basic functions into Wikipedia to a certain extent. And yes, it does require like to my understanding, the basic modules do not require coding knowledge to import, but again, like the more difficult modules like tagging and so on and so forth do require basically some technical knowledge to import. I've been talking with this with some folks at the Wikimedia Foundation, and it's an ongoing discussion that I'm having of like we need to invest more in sort of, so one of the reasons I'm sort of pumped for auto moderator is because like you training a AI model on like a bunch of edits is not something I would expect of basically like any small, like unless they're very resourceful. I would not expect that from anybody who's in say like a small wiki. Um, and that becomes a sort of like the fact that it is now in production and it can be um like the fact that it can be mm, like sort of easily like if you now want it, it's basically a one click, well, not one click, like you need to file a fabricated task, you need to get consensus, and that's the end of it. It'll be deployed and you can then sort of manually configure everything, right? Like there's a huge decrease in sort of the barrier of entry. So a lot of this is asking for the tools from the Wikimedia Foundation, like figuring out what tools smaller like editors and smaller projects need, and sort of telling the WMF, hey, we need to implement this, which with some of it's like some of that's gone well, some of that's not gone great. And more long term, I think what a lot of people have done is create like a sort of team within their community that does technical stuff. And so like this does not need to be like for every small project, but over like the Indic ecosystem. Or so I remember I recently came across Wikimedia Brazil, which is now sort of building a group of people who are able to help with basically any Portuguese adjacent project on technical matters. And basically having this sort of group of people who can come in and say, hey, okay, so you need to do X, Y, and Z. I can figure out how to do X, Y, and Z and do it for you. And them having good, like them having be like the requisite permissions will sort of help ease some of the problems in this. Yes, I am interested to learn more about the Indic Media Wiki Developers Working Group. Sorry, developers user group. I keep thinking working group. But yeah, like I think they are a extremely good shout in terms of a group of people who are doing this sort of thing. I think they are sort of the best people to help out in these cases. I do. I'm planning to show up to Wiki Conference India to talk with people and see where things are. I used to be an avid follower of them back when I was in India, but yeah, I have been a bit out of touch with them for a while. But yeah, also to answer the shortage of administrators questions, yeah, like um in English Wikipedia in particular, like yes, there's a shortage of administrators, there's a huge amount of things to do, and there's always a backlog, but also yes, it's a lot of trust, it's a lot of like the fact that you can block anybody is considered by the community to be a big enough barrier that they justify like um they justify the amount of effort needed to get administrator by sort of making it a lot difficult, basically.
I think it. This is the end of our session here. Thank you, Soham, for joining, and all the other participants also. We have a Telegram group where you can follow us and find the updates about the upcoming conversation hour and the other events going on in the community. You can follow us at dcwwiki.org. I'm sharing the link here as well. Um, okay, then, signing off. See you in the next conversation hour. Thank you so much for joining. Bye bye.